Verbal Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome you all to the show. Look, we're discussing a 1974 classic titled Claudine, which was brought to our attention by Pebbles. We appreciate this topic, Pebbles, because within this movie is actually the whole family dynamics, right? Now, before we get started, I just want to set the stage. And then after I set the stage, you all will understand the dynamics and why it was so important to move the father out of the household, right? So y'all check this out, right? Let me get this going. This is wild, right? On how we were done, right? Okay, so let me read this to you guys, right? Okay, here we go. It states, and I think I want to put this on one at a time so you all can see this. And you can read along with me, right? And here we go. And it's coming up, and it states, all right. It says, people also ask, right? Does the father contribute to the placenta, right? It says, yes. The father's genes play a crucial role in building and influencing the placenta. Even though the placenta develops within the mother's uterus, the paternal genes drive its aggressive growth and nutrient demands, making it partly a fetal organ, not just maternal. A significant portion of the placenta's genetic material comes from the father, affecting its structures, function, and communication with the mother's body to ensure adequate resources for the growth of the fetus, right? Now, hold on, we're going to check this last one out, right? Check this out, y'all. Check this out. Okay, check this out. It says, in essence, the father contributes the blueprint for the placenta, which then hijacks the mother's system to maximize resource supply for the baby, creating a fascinating genetic tug of war for fetal growth, right? Now, check this out, y'all. They knew, right, that the seed of the child is coming from the father, right? So it's like, if you look at the whole story of Adam and Eve in the garden and how they say the serpent goes to Eve and and tried to deceive or whatever, but the whole purpose is to get them out the garden so the enemy could move in and use the family as a tool or use them for his benefit and pleasure. And that was the whole purpose of moving the man out of the house so he can go in and create these weeds and create all kind of destruction because the father wasn't there, right? And then they made us think that it's all on the mother, but really it's on the father because that's your seed. That's a duplicate of you, whether it's male or female. I just wanted to set that context so when we get into this movie, Claudine, which Pebbles will give you all a synopsis on what Claudine details for those who haven't seen this 1974 classic. But just keep that in mind as we travel down this great movie, Claudine. What's the synopsis on Claudine, Pebbles?
Well, it's a mother. She's a single mother. She has 5 kids, or I think maybe 6. She has actually been married twice. And so when she's at work, she encounters this gentleman who he works for he's a he does
Garbage man.
yeah. Okay, I was trying to use a better word
Oh,
than that.
okay.
Sanitation worker. He's a sanitation worker.
Let's say that. That's better. That's what I was looking for. So yes, that's what he does. He works for the sanitation department. and he actually offers her, you know, to go out on a date. Although he did his attempt was to manipulate her by saying, hey, you know, you're not supposed to be working, because what she was getting from the system, of course, it wouldn't allow her to take care of her children.
Right.
Okay.
Now that makes
And
sense.
also was living in public housing. And so when they met, really come to find out, it was like they were one and the same.
Right.
She had children that she had to take care of. She was a single parent, but he also had children that he had to take care of. But he was like, basically, he was like away from his children.
Right.
So
Right.
then we'll get into all of that and actually how it affected the Black family.
Exactly. Is that by, because to me it seems like that system was done by design.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
to
It's
remove.
done to separate the Black family.
Right.
With the implementation, I mean, when they implemented, to me, the food stamps, single housing for mothers. Well, you know, if a woman have children, those children have a daddy somewhere.
Right.
But you create the housing for women and their children, right? And the dads can't stay there.
Right.
And actually, it's still like that today.
Right.
Yes.
I was saying that same system still is in place.
That's right. Yeah. That system was created for that purpose, right? Because think about it. If we were a conquered people, then of course those who conquered you, they don't want any competition. They want to rule over you, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, what best way to rule over you than getting the father out of the household? And then we'll take it another step further. Let's break down the masculinity of the father and have him confuse his role.
Yeah.
I mean, that is propaganda of warfare. So look. In Houston, right? I don't know. Have you seen this purpose? Have you seen this, Brother Pat anymore? In Spring SD, a 20-year-old man stops a bus, school bus, high school school bus, with a vehicle. He gets out with his gun, goes on the school bus, pull a gun on the bus driver and the students on the bus because he had a 17-year-old girl that was a junior in high school trying to drag her out the bus by the hair, right? With his gun. They caught him. But the fact that daddy wasn't there, the fact first of all, he's 20 years old. How would the mom even allow this to go down, for one? And what's in his mind to where you gonna stop a school bus and you gonna get on with your gun? You gonna just crash out like that and not knowing you 20? Why? What are you doing with this 17-year-old child in society? All that started even prior to 74 when this movie came out. This was going back prior to that. And what I'm saying is the society today is a product of what happened before us. And so we're trying to, I don't know, correct it if we can correct it, but shed light on the situation. Right.
Well, I
Now,
want to talk about, from watching the movie, it kind of was like a flashback a little bit, seeing when I watch those older movies, honestly, man, that's the time I always say that you can actually go back in time because you can actually see what was going on. Even if you got the people that's walking around, they don't even know they're in the movie. You can actually see that day again. And when I was watching it, it kind of takes me back. I was born in the 70s, you know what I mean? So it takes me back to that time of seeing how stuff was going on and not as a child, not being aware of the system. It's just you just growing up. And when I watched the movie, it kind of touched home because like my mom, she never took public assistance or nothing like that. But I have my aunts that did, So and it was like I grew up on the side of town where that was just normal. I saw it, but not knowing. I'm growing up in it, but not knowing what's going on. I remember there was a part in the movie where you see the
Social worker?
yeah, the social worker comes by to visit, and someone's at, James Earl Jones in the movie, he's there. The man is coming to visit her, and they're trying to hide him. I witnessed that from firsthand. Was seeing, my uncle had to leave. He had to leave because the social worker lady was going to come by. They do an audit and inspection and stuff like that. So we were talking about it earlier. Seeing that happen, when you go for this public assistance, there are going to be some kind of rules you got to abide by. When you come into them for help, as a part of being a part of that system, you're giving up power, you're giving up control. They're going to have to, so you have to understand that that's going to be a part of it. Now, how we go about changing that part is not going to them for that assistance, because it's a vicious cycle. It's going to keep looping. You can't get out of it. You can see it in the movie. Neither one of them could find a way out to help each other. They just had to be together. So
Yeah, that's the
that
only
system
way
is,
each other
yeah,
is being together.
that system is. I mean, once you agree to take it on, it can't be your bloodline. It can't be your man. You have to have a cutoff. I can't be on this for this, because you're going to buy into what everything they tell you going to do. They're going to keep changing the rules, keep making it harder and harder for you. So when people need it in the beginning, I understand. You need a little help. You're a single mom. You just had a new baby in the world. You may not know little things. There are some programs to help you with that. But if you decide you're just going to take full advantage of the housing, the money they're giving you, the WIC and all of that, there is some repercussions to that. There are going to be some rules and stuff. They're going to tell you what you can and can't do in there. And then you decide you want to have a man. Now, wait a minute. Hold on.
It actually stifles people.
Yes, it does.
But,
Yes.
but it seems like they played on the nature of the heart of the woman, because the woman cares for not just only the man but the children a mother is nurturing, right?
Yes.
Just like I stated how Satan came to the woman, just like the slave master came to the woman and put her in charge over the whole house, and the man had to answer to the woman. And I was out, and you might can help me out on this, Pan African more, because I was always wondering, when I was younger, I used to hear the threat, like, yeah, you keep acting up, I'm gonna put them folks in your life, right?
Mm.
And it
Word.
made me wonder, why you so sure they coming to your aid, right? And then when I didn't realize it till I got older, somebody told me that, yeah, I'm gonna call them folk on you. I'm like, wait a minute, I pay the bills,
Man.
I pay my taxes. What do you mean? Who are them folks,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You think
Right.
that just stemmed from slavery, from those times? Like, I'm like
Hmm.
meaning that, okay, yeah, I'm gonna mean, okay, he studied us. That's why in the Witty Lynch letters, because spells are words. Even though they say, oh, it might be a hoax, no, you can read these words on this paper, which made it authentic, real. It's a spell. And that's why he said we're going to put the man against the woman. He studied us and came up with the tactic, right? And he displayed it in this movie, which we'll get into further as we, go along on this particular topic. But
Yeah.
is that something that was indoctrinated in our psyche between them to create that division between the male and the female?
Of course. There's a video. I haven't seen it in years. It's a classic. OG Bobby Hemmett put a video out called "The History of the KKK," and it documents all of this vast amount of history of the current day police, tracing back to the KKK, and how it is under masonry, and it has how Mason's involved in it and how it's just a part of their body politic. But he does a great job of, you know, bringing the documentation, breaking everything down into intense detail. You know, so of course, you know, division was sown between genders and between, you know, our ethnic groups, and you know, that was the original game. You know, so it just like the Willie Lynch letter says, all of those different ways to cause division is divide and conquer. That's how you play the game to win from their perspective, their art of war.
And Pebble, I got a quick question. Cause this was the most intense part of this movie was when she found out her daughter was pregnant, right? And she jumped on her.
Oh,
Like she whooped her, you know? It's like, was she
Yeah,
fighting for her soul?
right. And that was, to me, that was more out of not, I won't say so much disappointment, but I didn't want you to be like me, or what has gone on with me. I didn't want that to happen to you.
How hard it's
Her
like
mother and her mother already knew. But keep in mind, her mother, like I said, her mother had been married twice.
right.
mhm.
So those children, they had dads, okay? And she was married to him. But she already was going having a difficult time. And at that time the mother was 36 years old and she had all those kids. So she was pretty young.
Right, right.
So
Think
it's like we're already struggling and then you bring another mouth another mouth that's coming into the house to be fed.
yeah, that's rough. You got one woman managing six children with different characteristics and mindsets, and you got to be up on what everybody like. Don't do him this way. Let him do this. They calling your mama. She couldn't even enjoy the time with him because they calling on the
Right.
phone.
And then
Yeah.
she had children that were older that were being subjected to the streets. So it was like she was getting it from all directions
Everywhere, everywhere, and,
because all the influencement coming from outside. Because if she was at work, who was at home with the children?
right, yeah,
And see, that's the thing. And that's why children, it is very important for there to be two parents in the household.
yeah.
So that's why I say we have to get it together. Of course, we can do it, but you know, person can single handedly do it, but the stress of it,
Right. But this is
it's a
my.
lot.
It,
It's a lot
but
to handle.
well, let me ask y'all this though. Let me ask y'all this, and that's why I read the fact that the father's DNA creates the placenta, right? So who has more responsibility of that seed? If because I think that you can study your children by studying the father because they came forth from the father, right? So I think I think he might have tricked us and made the woman feel like she responsible for making sure the children are right when it might be the father making sure the children got the nourishment right because they said that the genes the he creates the nutrients for the children. It might be more on the man than the woman.
Hmm.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it leans more toward the man, but I think when you breaking down the structure of the nuclear family, when you divide that up, I mean, there's going to be because there could be different cultural difference between the mother and the father. You know, it could be religious, different thing how they raise and stuff like that, and they're coming together and to raise a child. You know, those fundamental principles of raising a child. You know, you can let a child go astray. Both parents can come from a good upbringing and everything, but if they don't apply those principles to that raising that child, the chance of that child going astray, I don't think it's neither on the father or the mother. I think it's just them principles of them having structure within that household to, they can both share the load on raising the child, but if you don't have that, I think that I've seen situations where it's been the reverse. The father is raising the children, and the kids is out of whack just as well. Because there's no balance. He's going to be a certain way. she's going to be a certain way. But that's why it's so important having both of those, mother and the father, in there, because you get some people. It's unfortunate, like my wife. Her father passed away when she was young, so her mother had to raise the kids. You know, she never
Right. I
married
understand.
like that. You see what I'm saying? But they turned out okay. So because that structure was put in play, that hey, how the household was going to run when she was trying her best. And her mom had four kids, you know, and it was just her.
But
So it can be done. That's what I'm
when we
trying to say.
going, if we go in the biblical aspect, and you talking about a garden and a gardener, you plant a rose. That seed, when that rose blooms, the gardener got to water it. It got to keep the bugs off of it. It got to keep the weeds. Meaning the security. You got to be in front of that door. You got to check what come in, what come out. You got to, you know what I'm saying?
It's takes two.
Meaning, I'm saying we got gender. We got gender. You got feminine, masculine. Feminine has a part to play,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Masculine has a part to play. That has to be played in order to build a society. Got say and they, but what I'm saying, they know this. That's why they took corporal punishment out of school and they took it out the household. Put them hotlines on. If your father whip, you can call them. Here comes the system again. They coming in the house. I done seen it happen. I had a partner whip his son. His son said, "I'm calling the police." He stayed in the house till the police got there and they took him to jail. Took him out the house. Because the whole purpose is I'm finna snatch you about this house.
That you said it right there. The end goal is to enslave you. It's back in prison, to get you in jail, get you caught up in the paperwork system, to get you back under being a slave. That's the name of the game. So you're free and you're out, you're doing this, but you make a mistake, you get in trouble, get some legal things. The end goal is to get you back under that amendment to where you're now a slave again. That's
Uh,
the goal. That's what these systems. That's the end result.
and see that's Pan African war. That's where the law come in at.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta have the law and we gotta have discipline. Right? You gotta have both of them they gotta work in unison. The law, because you have to know. That's the whole purpose of the Panthers.
Yeah.
Teaching the law. You can do this, you can do that. You gotta know the rules of the game. We don't know the rules of the game. And that's the problem. And when you know the rules of the game, you can not break them, but you can come close. We can't break them like they break them, but you know the rules of the game. You know how far you can go and play the game. So when they come and lie, you can say, wait a minute, the law states this, right? And then we don't stick out our chest and say, wait a minute, my tax dollars pay your salary. Why you work for me?
Yeah.
They put fear in us as babies. Wow, man, yeah. It's like we look. Are we standing on our land? Is this our land? Then why we don't have the characteristics like we on our land? I don't get. I'm confused. Now hold up. I'm gonna show y'all this real quick though. Blake, let me trip y'all out though, because I might be. Hold up. I might I might be tripping a little bit because the movie, what it did to me, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I could be dead wrong, but I want y'all to correct me if my way of thought, my thought process is wrong. Is because my thought process is something different, man. When it ran me hot in a
See, the
sense.
thought process, in our inner emotions get tied into it, man, because, when we get upset, it's like congestion. You know what I'm saying? You can't get out your thoughts. You can't get things. We can't function right like that. And that's a mechanism right there in itself in order to distract you. If I can keep you upset all the time, I can predict what your next move is going to be.
Yeah, because I'm upset.
You're going to want to smoke a cigarette. That's going to kill you. You don't want to drinking. And everybody know alcohol is a depressant. So no matter you good feeling good now, but something going to trigger in your brain that's going to make you upset. Now you breaking the law. Now you do, so it's all a trap to get you out of your right frame of mind in order to put you in situations that you may not understand, that's set up for you to get you back under complete control by the law. By law, I can do this to you, but I can't do it until you make these steps to put you in that situation. So
Yeah, okay.
you're walking on nails with thin ice, man. But that's one of the part of the things that I think on this panel, everybody on here mentally strong enough and to avoid all of those things. We see it coming a mile away. We just won't fall victim to none of that. And in the movie, seeing that, they're being on welfare, they look at it like a bad thing. I think it helps people in the beginning. But like I say, when you start to try to do something outside of it, there's penalties for it. Okay, you need a job because welfare is enough. They want to tell you, you can only have this amount of groceries. You can only have this amount of money. You can only do this, whatever. And you say, okay, well, I'm going to do that. But then you realize that's not enough for you to live off of. So you decide to go do other things. And those other things get you in trouble, forfeit the whole situation. And then you're back at square one, worse off than you was before, because now you don't have a house, no food, and no job, so it's a trap. It's all a trap.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You know why it's going to be a trap? It's because instinctively, intuitively, you have instincts. We are a nation inside of a nation, right? We not European. We not Eurasians. Right. We are you got a black nation in America, black nation in Africa. You got a black nation in the Caribbean. And we've had a culture before this new culture came and sacked our culture. So instinctively, we going off of rhythm. So when they say, hey, what y'all gathering up here? Y'all get off this corner. Wait a minute, we've been doing this since the beginning of time. How you gonna come and hour and tell us what we can and can't? It's a rebellious spirit that you not the boss of me, right? Now I'm gonna show y'all something that they would not let me play, right? I've been trying to play this video from the movie, right? It would not play. But check this out. I'm gonna show you. Damn, I wish I could play it. But we seen the movie though, Pebbles.
What part is it?
At the end, the preacher there, right?
Right. Okay.
They getting married.
The wedding ceremony.
The elder son running from the police. He runs into the wedding ceremony, and the police follow him in, and the new dad swang on the police.
Right.
They arrested him. Right. They even arrested the preacher.
Right. Everybody went to jail.
Everybody went
in the paddy wagon.
Everybody in the paddy wagon. And then the next generation, which was the kids, right? They running trying to catch the paddy wagon because they parents in the paddy wagon, right? And the movie showed this white arm reach out and grab one of them kids and put his ass in the paddy wagon too. Then everybody in the paddy wagon laughing, right? Happy. But the movie was saying, I don't care, we're going to put your preacher in the system. Your ass getting in the system. Everybody getting in this paddy wagon.
But also, guess what that family said? If one of us go down, all of us going down, and we're sticking together. So that said a lot, because that black father, okay, he accepted those kids and he was like, hey, we all going. So that showed a lot. At least they didn't just let the police take their son. They fought back.
They won. They fought in there.
There was a lot of positives. There's a lot of positives in there. The subconscious part of it. I did get that. I did take that away from it too. It's like, because if you look on the cover, it shows them all together. And that's from that moment when they were all together, because he had the suit on. So that was, the part of it that, hey, even though the cops let him go, but they all stuck together, and it was a blended family, which was good. So the fact of it is, it still brings it back to unity. And no matter how bad the situation is, we
Unity.
can't survive without each other.
Unity.
And also, can we focus on the part about Rupert when he got his check?
Oh yeah. When it's getting they garnish his
Now,
wages.
to me, that's a very
Yeah.
it's very crucial that we discuss that.
Okay, now, but was it? Look, he said he did not want to put his name in that system when she brought him down there the first time. He was like, by giving them people my name, but he did it anyway. As soon as he got his name and got in that system, they started garnishing his check.
Yes, for his kids. He was already, you could tell that he had already worked out an arrangement with the mothers before, because he was
paying something.
He was paying something, but the system said that's not enough. You know, so they decided they were going to, which is child support. You know, child support saying, hey, look, so now you can tell he's worked before and he's moved from town to town before. It wasn't nothing new, because he gave an option saying, well, I'll just go here and I'll get a job under there. I'll do these type of jobs that'll pay you under the table, so he can still continue to work. But once he got in that system, they garnished his wages and told him that, hey, if you don't pay now, we're taking you to jail.
Okay. Now hold up, Pan African. What
And
I
also,
just got,
and let's not forget about what it did. How did it affect him?
he was
It
mad.
really made him feel that he was unworthy even to be talking to someone, to even be dating a lady.
Right. Yeah.
Because he said he couldn't take care of her. Well, it was basically like,
he
if I
started
can't
drinking.
hit, then what good am I to you?
Right.
So can we give him some props for that? For even thinking like, hey, I know I need to help.
Right.
But I can't, so let me step away.
And it drove him to drink.
Right.
It drove him to start drinking that he could, because I'm a man. Why is y'all bothering me? I can't take care of this, my family. I can't marry this lady. Y'all taking money out my check. I don't have an outlet. He grabbed the bottle. Right.
Stress.
But and the reason why I say that, because that happened to so many. He's not the only
It's
one.
happening right now. It's happening
right now.
As we speak. It's happening right now.
All over the nation. And that leads me to ask Pan African Moore this question, right? Because you think about it. This man had a father, right? He had a father. He had a grandfather, right? His great grandfather, right, had to be, because we know that your genetics carries memory.
Mm-hmm.
His great grandfather had to be in that system where the white men was raping on women, having babies, and wasn't taking care of or paying nothing.
Yeah, the first deadbeat dads.
The first deadbeat dad. So,
Right.
Patrick, do you think that mindset stemmed from that great grandfather seeing this deadbeat, and how y'all gonna make me when y'all the first deadbeat, and how y'all gonna put all the weight and pressure on me when they witnessed this?
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't totally understand your question, Black.
Okay, so the question is, you know how everything has a beginning, and when you see injustice, meaning, okay, let me give you an example. Okay, I'm in this little slave quarters, right? This is my wife or my significant other, right? Here come the colonizer, the white man, slave master. You take her up, rape this lady, have a child. Now the lady and your child back in this small slave quarters, right? When I go out and hunt food and get food for the family, I gotta feed his child, right? When the child get hurt, is crying at night, I gotta tend to his child. I'm not getting any kind of money or any payback or nothing for doing that, right? So that anger is already in that man, in the black man, because he's not gonna leave that woman, right? Because he knows the situation she in. So now he has a son, and he passed that on to his son, right? And then so when the colonizer comes back and say, "Hey man, you owe child support. You not taking care of your children." He like, wait a
So
minute,
that's what
I
we
got generations
tell
of you
them.
motherfuckers. You know,
Make
I
that
get
a
it from
part of
you.
reparations too.
All right.
Yeah, go back for all that child support and add interest on it.
And I,
Yeah,
Woo!
shall we talk about that?
right.
So
Mm,
technically, we the
mm.
first step is we the
Yeah,
first
we the first step, Dad. We ain't get nothing. And then the sad part about it is, this nigga walking around with a half mulatto child, but goddamn, he ain't got no choice. Right. So,
Hey,
what
hey,
about all the?
you know what? You, you know what? I wanna add this to it. Something you were saying earlier when you was talking about the father's role versus the mother's role.
Mhm.
It's interesting because, in as far as the US, whenever you go into their law dictionaries and you look at their laws, they're actually they do have a patriarchal system based on the language, their legalese, the language of their legal system. But it doesn't, you don't typically see that translate when it comes to family court. You typically will see that when it comes to custody and visitation and things like that, that it'll go in the favor of the mother. So which, only thing I could really say about that is, they have their agenda, but then, when these cases come up, I think a lot of these rights that are paternal rights are not even being brought up in the cases by the fathers because they're not aware of it. Only reason I'm aware of it is just because, I got some law dictionaries and I looked it up myself and I went through what I went through when I was, going through the case with, my son, because, me being a Moor, really the major conflict that I was having with my son's mother was because, she wasn't a Moor and she, wasn't didn't have knowledge of self when I met her. And, so we clashed when it came to the birth certificate, especially the birth certificate, the name, then my family got involved, my father's side got involved and made things worse. And it was just, it was like the perfect storm, so I was paying out of pocket. And, then what happened is there was well, I don't want to get into too much details, but I'll just say that when I was paying out of pocket, something came up with well, I'll say it was a medical bill, but I wasn't informed that my son was taken to the hospital. I had no idea what happened. So when this medical bill was brought to me to pay for the medical bill, uh, my first question was, why wasn't I informed that he was taken to, any kind of medical facility? And also I want to see the receipt if I'm going to be paying for anything. And I wasn't, there was a complete resistance in terms of the receipt. And, right after that's when I got put on child support because I requested that receipt. And, I kept all my receipts and I was, like I said, I was paying out of pocket. It was really actually based on the advice of my sister-in-law, my brother's wife. She actually is the one, and she had 3 children from my brother. She's actually the one that told me the amount that I should be giving to the mother of my son because, her having children, she was like, well, this is what it's going to basically cost in order to take care, of her nephew, which is my son. And so I got hit with the child support. Me being a Moor and being an extremely active Moor, I was, it was everything they said you should do as a Moor. I was with it, So when I got hit with that child support, when the process server was coming to the house, knocking on the door, trying to give me the lawsuit because it's legally it's considered a lawsuit. or a charge against your name, your estate name, the all caps name that you get, in the mail and your letters, and that's on your driver's license and your social security. And me studying this, and at the time, my the brother that was my homie at the time was living with me, and he got hit with child support at the same time. So we probably told this story, Black, on Verbal Pick Radio before, about how we was going to the law library and we was
The
meeting
guy
with
that
the Hebrew Israelite.
yes,
What'd you say, Black?
the guy that was
Yeah, we was
helping.
meeting. Yeah, the Hebrew Israelite brother was helping us and was teaching us so much legalese. And I mean, we was learning like lightning fast because we was under so much pressure. And we was doing what to my understanding is referred to as a private side resolution, meaning that typically when you get hit with a lawsuit via a child support lawsuit, then you would deal with it in the court. So when you go into court and you could be in front of a public audience for your case, then that would be considered a public resolution, so to speak. And us handling it outside of court, we were taught that it's considered a private side resolution. So when they would send us the lawsuit, we just wouldn't consent to the child support lawsuit. And we was fighting the case, for a year, a couple years, me for about a year, and then my homie at the time for a couple years. And it wasn't because we didn't want to take care of our children. Like I said, I was paying out of pocket. I didn't have no problem, or even lack of money, working, where I work at, where we work at. It wasn't about no money. It was about, if you're going to, because they didn't want to use my insurance because my son was, based on my insurance, he was under my name, Alkebulan, and they didn't want anything. They didn't want that his they didn't want that name attached to him in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So anything, my insurance, whenever Bureau of Vital Statistics was contacted after my son was born, the name that they have on his birth certificate is not my name. It's actually like a composite name where it took my name and my former name and combined it into a fake composite name in order to change his last name.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
and I mean, it's a whole lot that happened. It's a lot that I could say, but that whole situation. I mean, it was a great learning experience, and it to this day, like the situation hasn't been completely resolved. And I would just say that whenever you get these people, because we should have been able to handle that between just us. We didn't need a foreign, these foreign entity to come and interfere with grown folk business. We're the parents. Both of us are vital to our son's mental faculties, his balance, his know-how, his understanding. That was supposed to be something that we should have been able to compromise on and come to some kind of understanding, but unfortunately it didn't go down like that. And I think that that's really the biggest lesson is that, when it comes to when you have two, parents, they should be able to converse and work these things out without letting someone, an entity or a corporation that 100% doesn't have their best interest in mind, never has had their best interest in mind, and never will have their best interest in mind, because it wouldn't be conducive to them staying in the position that they're in, operating as whether you want to say an oligarchy or, as a corporation that's ran by the wealthy. The wealthy make the decisions for this particular corporation who has jurisdiction over this land.
Yeah.
And last thing, when you said, is this our land? Well, the thing is like we always say, is that we have to think sovereignty first. It should be our frame of mind and our way of life and our culture when it comes to these conversations. It should never, now as a last resort, yeah, you can resort to utilizing the foreign entity to bring some kind of resolution to a situation when you can't do it yourselves as adults, but it should be a last resort. The first resort should always be us exercising our sovereignty and us handling our problems, you know, so that way we can start getting back into having our own cities. Shout out to Studewood. Just found out from walking through the neighborhood that it was the first African American city in Texas. Just found that out. I haven't even talked to y'all about it yet. Blew my mind because I'm a Acres Studewood baby, you know, so that blew my mind. But yeah, we gotta have these sovereign conversations, and because it's
I,
causing so much destruction in our nuclear family structures.
definitely. See, I'm glad you said that because now that's a good segue into the other part of this movie, Claudine, as we bring it into the end of the year 25 into the beginning of the year 2026. Because a father, a mother, 6 children, right? Now we have to now they have to parent now, right?
Right.
Okay. Do y'all think that and Peppers, you can answer this and we'll go around. Do y'all think that we should get back to age appropriate content dealing with children?
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
Would you hear that?
Because all the things that the kids are experiencing that is adult content, it's making, of course, it has made them grow up way too fast. Okay, because a lot of kids are mature. I mean, it just says that biblically, it says that they'll be wiser but weaker.
Mm,
So all that extra exposure and it's they're being desensitized.
mm,
It's nothing if they hear gunshots or something like that. Oh, okay, no big deal.
mm.
To where
Yeah,
if I was a kid, I'm like scrambling, oh, what is that?
right,
Absolutely.
right. But you
Yes. Because it's revving their mind up too much.
right, right.
Their minds can't be free.
Okay. Yeah. That's the job of the parents. What you think, Dad?
I
Oh,
agree. I
yeah.
mean, I agree, and I'll be the first one to say, as a student of media, loving TV, movies, and stuff like that, I grew up in, like we were discussing earlier. There was a time when your parents would say, "Don't let them watch that. They can't see that. They're not ready to watch nothing like that." Then it got to the point to where when you were old enough, or they felt that you was a teenager, something you could watch this stuff. I just thought about how many scary movies I've watched in my lifetime. It got to the point to where movies ain't scary. I'm mad because the movie ain't scary enough. So we've been desensitized. But those times, so it just levels and levels and levels of it. And the children nowadays, they're getting exposed to it, and the parents really have no really control over that part of it. So now their mind is not even developed yet. A person's brain is not developed until they're like 26 years old. So they're dealing with adult issues, adult topics. They're in a situation they can't respond. They haven't lived long enough to have an answer for some of these situations that by them being exposed to a lot of this stuff, they can't even comprehend it. So, the parents are dealing with trying to raise an adult, even
Yeah.
though they're skipping their childhood because they're being exposed to adult content, and and they're leaving it up to the parents to say, well, hey, it's all out there, but it's still up to you to make sure this stuff is not coming. But it's so many different ways it can get into it. So I do think it does affect the children nowadays. I think if we get back to age appropriate content, it's going to be it will be hard to do it, but it's still needed because you got kids that are coming up now. So the ones that have this little batch that made it through, we have to work on them. But the ones that's coming up, we always got to think about the
Right.
ones
Coming up.
coming up.
You
And we see that does work. Age appropriate content does work, and we just have to work better on
Right. It gives them
controlling
something
what comes into the household.
right.
without them jumping like the process.
Right.
Right.
I remember my mother saying she had a cousin. For his 21st birthday, he didn't have anything to do because he had done so many things.
Right.
Wow. What you think, Pan African War? Pan African War.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what you think about age appropriate
Yes.
content?
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
you have a young
definitely.
one coming up.
You said because what?
You have a young one coming up that's probably younger than what we have in this, because it's in this generation.
Hmm.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, age appropriate content, the fact that you got children's content that is you have homosexual relationships and children and children's content, which that is that's something that deals, because children, they're not engaging in those type of romantic relationships anyway, at their young ages. And so that is really more of an adult, kind of content, so when they put it into the children's content and into the cartoons, and they have the male cartoons dressing as women, and vice versa, that could really affect the perspective of the child that's consuming that, subconsciously. And them being so young, their mind is so much more fertile, and they're more subconscious than they are conscious, because they haven't built up that consciousness being so young. So it makes them, they're so much more impressionable. So they shouldn't have to be subjected to things dealing with romantic relationships, and homosexual relationships, and uh, even when it comes to high levels of violence. And I mean, those things, their mind, like I say, being so fertile, they can't be able to logically reason, what would be, conducive for them to, have a healthy growth process, when they're being constantly bombarded in a place like, this in America, where it's like everything goes. It's like there's no restrictions. It's whatever, whatever is really is really, as Aleister Crowley, do as thou wills, for real.
Right, right.
Like, for real. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that because it segues into the next topic. We let Pebbles go first because all three of us uh, deal with the music industry, right? But there's a growing number of people from different backgrounds that is now battling and trying to stop gangster rap music in the culture. Our generation, our ages, and a lot of women as well. What you think, Pebbles, on going after the gangster rap culture? Because they say they tired of the killing, they tired of the murders, they tired of
They're making it because it has been made out to be that it's just something, just a normal part of the day, and that is something really cool. The language, absolutely, and like it was said, the music, the rap we used to listen
right,
to, it was so cool. It told a story.
right.
But now you getting all of this, do this and da 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 and all. I'm like, what the hell?
But is it the label's fault or the artist's fault? Because the label
It's the
says
artist's
that,
fault. But you know why? Because their mindset is, I don't care what I say or do, long as I make the money.
right, long as they get their
So
bag.
it's definitely their responsibility. And then when they go into it or whoever they sign up with, you know, as it said, and now you're getting, make sure you get a good understanding.
Right.
They need to know what's actually behind this.
Yeah.
What are you expecting me to do? And so when they sign up for it, then that's what they get. They have to follow through with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because all of that, I mean, it's wow. Talk about derogatory. It's really bad. It really is.
Yeah. As especially, as oh my God, as men, as a man and a man with daughters, and you know how when your daughter's born and you try to visualize the type of man that they would marry and whatnot, and then you start seeing the prison culture, and as African Moore stated, the homosexual culture rapid. It's like, wow, this is not nothing that as a citizen that I pictured for the future. Meaning, how did we let it get? How did we let it get to this stage? I know I got an idea, but what you think, Dave?
Well, I think with the music part of it, it's still one of those mechanisms used as far as to entrap you. To keep your subconscious on that level of where you're not paying attention to what's the big picture, what's really going on. And think about it like this. When we listen to the music, we know we're that generation when hip hop started, so we know the positivity, what we were about. We were the first fans. We know what we remember. We come from a time where they didn't want it. Now everybody has to have it. But for them to exploit it at that point, because there was a time in music, in hip hop music, where commercializing it was the worst thing to do. When you commercialized it, that meant you was letting the others in on it, and they were going to take it. We knew eventually they would take it, and because it's not theirs, so they're going to exploit it to the max, and then they're going to test and see. Let's see how low it can go. Let's see what we can do. We can make a dollar. So it's like a game to them, but to us, it really means something. So when the artists are now putting out music, their mindset, they don't have a history of knowing how powerful this music can be and what it was really utilized for.
Right.
To see them.
I believe they absolutely did know, and that's why I used it as another mechanism. It's another type of warfare because they know we listen. We music is great for us. It does something for our soul. So they
see, we were using it to communicate,
right?
Because we didn't have all of the devices and stuff like now. So when we were down south, when we hear something came out, it was already somewhere else. It was old news, but it still was our form of communication, styles, trends, fads, anything like that. So that was our main vehicle for communication, and we talked in code. We talked in code in it, and we knew what we set the trends. We knew what we were talking about. We set the dance. The coach came from it, but when we didn't necessarily have a thing in play to make money off of it. When the money got involved in it, when you start to see, oh, these people were successful, it's like, well, how much would you do? How low would you go for this dollar? What would you do? Would you degrade yourself? Would you degrade your culture? Will you sell out and then put it on display? So the people coming up, well, this the way we got to do it. This is the way you got to do it. So yeah, I agree. It's all leading back to the trap.
Right, but
they call it trap.
But it's like you stated, unity. Rap transcends not just in America, UK, Caribbean, Africa. That is a tool to unify. Now, when you look at music that comes out of other cultures, let's say certain types of reggae, certain types of Afro beats, the main concept is love, relationship, community. Let's build, right? But since we under this system, is let's kill,
right?
It's let's kill. What do you think?
It's like bring the trash, take away all of the high vibration.
Yeah, right.
And things like that to lower us, so we got the frequency could be low.
That's right.
Right.
What you think?
And so the only way to not engage in that is by not listening to it, because that stuff does get in your psyche. If you hear a grand beat, and that's what I always listen for. I listen. Forget the words. If it has a dope beat, that's it.
Right. It's on. Right. They slide it back.
That's so true. That is so true. The beat does have a big part in it. The producers, I produce music, and I do know that it does plays a big part in it. Any artist that I've worked with, and I talked to you about this Black before, it was like I've never really put profanity in the music and that against anybody to do that and nothing like that. But my thing was, if my grandmother couldn't listen to it and be proud of me, you know what I'm saying, I was doing it the wrong way. That's what's not supposed to be there. If your grandmother can't listen and say, "That's my grandson," right, and be proud of what you're doing, then you're not doing the right thing with it. You know, so I grew up with that instilled in me. So I've worked with people to do different types of tracks and music and stuff like that, and I could raise the tempo on a track or add a certain sound into it, and it can make a person just get demented. You know, you
Right.
play those
So
strings a certain way.
that's right.
Yeah,
So if you hear that music, you don't have to hear the words, because if you hear the music, well, or hear the beat, then guess what? The words are coming.
It's a story in itself.
They'll be on repeat, and you don't have to hear it. It just has something to do with that beat.
It's
It
mind
goes on.
control.
So that's why we do. I look forward to the trash being put out.
it's coming. What you think, Pan Africa, more on gangster rap today, and they
Huh?
protest the sin?
They protesting? Is that what they doing?
They coming out saying, "Hey, this is destroying generation." They got a movement coming in 2026, bro.
That's what's okay. Well, you said, man, I'm buying it. You
They
know, I'm a roll with that. You
this
know, hey,
they it's like they ganging up and pointing the finger that this is the cause.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Follow
I
the money.
mean,
That's where the money coming from.
Yeah, that's.
That's the source
I
of
mean,
it.
But
I mean,
man,
it,
by it though. What you say, Pan there?
no, I was just gonna say. I mean, it's a for these rappers. I mean, a lot of them is they're approaching it from a hustle perspective. So I mean, even with a lot of the podcasts, so it's like they looking at it like, well, why would I rap about that particular subject when it's not gonna bring me any views? They know that the gang bang and the drill music is gonna bring the views, and that equals to money. And that's their primary concern. That's why there was an era that came in where it became very popular to say, I'm a hustler, not a rapper. I'm not a them rap niggas. Y'all some rap niggas. I mean, to this day, that's a
Yeah,
big thing, is that when you got all these rappers, and being a rap nigga is a put down. They like, no, even I was just listening to 21 Savage, and he was talking about the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar back and forth, and he was saying, well, basically, I'm paraphrasing, that Drake is still winning because he has the most streams, he has the most views, even though, it was a rap battle, and it was really a battle. A part of it was about, real artistry versus manufactured, you know, uh, content, if you will, because, Drake came out and said he had writers. And what I will give them credit for is that at least neither one of them nor J. Cole was making drill music. They wasn't making music that was strictly predicated on, catching a body and, showing up to somebody's gravesite and shooting, a video at, the gravesite of somebody who in your gang, murdered the other side, what they call the ops,
yeah,
and so I mean, it's a money thing. It's a hustle. If it's somebody, if a person is young, especially let's say a young boy or a young bull, like they say in Philly, if you're in the streets and you're already hustling, and we know they not uh, making that much money, and you see that all these guys that you hustling with, young guys, y'all could get together and have, for little to no money, have somebody come and shoot you. Shit, if you got an iPhone, you don't need no money. They come shoot you with their iPhone, throw it in a little editing program, and run up 1 million views and go viral. Why not? Why not go that route?
right.
It's you don't have to take the risk of getting locked up in prison or or jail. You don't have to take the risk of getting. But see, here's the problem: is that when they came in, they saw that it wasn't just about just rapping about what they was going through day to day. They wanted to make it ultra realistic. And so they're naming names. They're saying who they killed. They saying who killed them. And that drill music era that came in and was popularized by Chicago and by all the YouTubers and podcasters that was making money off of monetizing all of those murders that was happening, that's still happening to this day. That once we saw that blueprint, then every other city, where we reside in America, followed that same blueprint. So you had it in Florida, you got a drill movement in New York, which you have rappers constantly dying, constantly getting shot. I mean, it's just really getting worse and worse, and all the way up to the point to where, you got rappers doing doing this in dresses with fingernail polish in
Right.
America.
It, it
Take a young thug, who just came off a trial where they caught a RICO case, and they was banging blood, but they got on dresses and wearing purses,
yeah.
So I mean, they're on a whole nother level in America, and this is the most popular land on the planet, popular landmass. People, they watch our movies. We got the most popular movies, the most popular rappers, and I mean, the U.S. has made this the flagship for degeneracy. So I mean, the only thing that could change that is the culture. We have to be able to give our people solutions and incentive in order to go a different route. Because if it's a hustle, the kids are gonna say, "Well, what you got to offer? If you don't have nothing to offer that's better than this route, then we don't want to hear what y'all talking about."
And you right, but when you, let's say those who I players, let's say back in the late in the 80s, 90s, crack come out, right? Hustling crack, the money coming, right? Now say you got new dope fiends, right? Over a period of time, you start seeing that mother losing it. Her looks start changing, things changing, right? And now you making this money. Then it two and two come together. You like, wait a minute. Damn, I'm the reason why this family going down, right?
Right.
So because it hit everybody. You got to make a decision right there. Am I gonna listen to that voice and say, man, I'm fucking up the community? Or I'm finna get this money? Now, if you disconnect yourself with that pain and you say I'm finna get that money, you desensitize yourself and you become a new beast.
Yep.
Mm.
So then the rappers, right? They saw that and then that became what they rapping about, right? And
Right.
but it switched in time, but the money was being made because the rap music was too slow. Why would I sit up in the studio from 8 o'clock to 5 in the morning making music that ain't paid when my people going off all night? I gotta go.
Right.
It's money being made right now. You know what I mean? But then start setting out the trunk. That money is being made. Folks getting deals, that money is being made, but that money is being made talking about the destruction that the hustlers was doing to the community. And then, like you said, and then over generations, time came, it just blowed up, right? Now, majority of suburban kids buy, because we wasn't buying no rap music. I'm tell you how I never wanted to be famous. The only reason why I did the magazine thing was because it was a old lady. She was heavy set. Used to be in the original Chimichan on Van Fleet. Was bootlegging my first CD, and I didn't even know how she got it.
Wow.
And once she started bootlegging and it started circulating, and they were now, man, you saying, I'm like, I was like telling her, nah, don't sell it. I don't want to be famous. You know what I'm saying? That's that thing. I don't want attention on me like that. But but the kids, the suburban kids, love to hear us denigrate ourselves because they got something to compare to. We dancing to y'all destruction. And then they fathers drive through the community. See, when you don't go to college, you're gonna be like looking like you're gonna be them. You're gonna be this, you're gonna be that. They don't mind them listening to that music, just you don't do that shit.
Shit. Hey, when I hear it, when I'm here in spring and I look over, it's not us listening to it.
Yeah. They find that. They look
They loud too. I mean, they bang loud. And I'm like,
they
wow.
they got it from us. We create every culture. We created. We created. I don't know if you hold up, Planet Africa more and Dave Pimp. I don't know if y'all ever heard a story where CIA and they turned rap into gangster rap, and they met at Rooftop Hotel or whatever. I can't recall all the details of it, but it was systematically done. And then they was creating pipelines to prison. Why? Because prison's on the stock market. You can invest in the private prison right now on the stock market and make some money. You know, it's like we are the genie at the bottom, man. We the genies, man. We make everybody money. But
See,
ourselves though,
think about it.
meaning we make
It's the
some money,
power
but
of
we ain't making
influence.
what they making off us though.
No, it's the power of influence. I mean, we're the most influential people ever existed. It's been tested. We've seen that amongst growing up, we know our stuff is always the best. They've always capitalized off of it, because a person will take that money and that fame and say, that makes this for self gratification. Whether I got to step on anybody's toes or anybody's neck to get there, just for self gratification, because everybody has that power influence and we have it. Ours is stronger. It's stronger and it's proven. So in order for you to see a whole generation of people that's not like us mimicking what we do, that show you how powerful our influence is without us even doing it. We didn't say, hey, do this, do this. The part that gets me is that once we see that it brings the destruction, and they say, oh, money ain't good money, but people are taking because they're in that situation, which leads back to the movie, how when you're at your worst when you without, when you're
Right.
going through these economic situations to where you don't have money, your mindset starts to think. You start to do any and everything to get money. I'm not saying I'm knocking anybody from doing it, but that's just a part of the steps of you self-destructing. Eventually, you're gonna sell out to something bad that's gonna bring you some fortune, but on account of it's gonna hurt someone else. You know what I mean? So we have to be more responsible for the things that we put out there because it's gonna influence somebody.
But we gonna close out on this last question. So the young against the old, right? The older generation is saying, yeah, we sold this dope, we tore up, we trying to rebuild. We telling the youth, don't do this. But the youth saying, well, wait, we making money talking about what you all did. How y'all gonna come there and tell us not to like Pan African Moore was saying? How now y'all gonna tell us not to make our money? It makes the older generation seem like hypocrites, but it's not that. It's that we wiser. They done did time. They coming out saying, look, they want peace. They telling gangbangers, look, let's get a truce going, man. Let's end this, right? But they saying, man, these people paying us too good to stop. How do we
Yes.
unify and bridge that? How we correct this? Or or do we let it just run its course and die off in another generation?
Well, I'm 50-50 on it. If you don't say anything, then that means that you're contributing to the cause. You know what I mean? So if I warn you and you decide to go your own route and then it doesn't end up the way you want it, and like I told you so, it's not about I told you so, it's that the fact that I did tell you. I didn't sit silent. If I sit silent as a person that know, hey man, that's the wrong way to go. That's not going hypocrite or not. I've already made them mistakes. I can't allow you to go down that same path again. I'm just as guilty. So if I sit silent and say, well, hey, you see, I'm not helping the situation. So if I say something and maybe I help one person decide to say, I'm not gonna go that route. You know, that one person, that's one less person that's on the other side that's taking everybody down and bringing others down with them. So as an old school, I can't sit solid. I don't have to be in your face and direct with it, but I will, as far as being wise enough to understand the situation and not to over glorify those type of negative situations, because it's all going to lead back to your demise.
Yeah. What you say? What you
Hmm.
say,
Well,
Panda?
what I say is, we should be, you know, letting the people know, giving them an alternative, because I think without, like I always say, every action is motivated by an incentive. So what is going to be their incentive, and what is the alternative for them to take a different route? Because it's a cultural issue. The fact that we're even engaging in certain things. If you think about a place like a Burkina Faso, where the children, as far as their education and all the programs that's being created and the culture, they're creating a culture where they could be proud of where they're from and be proud to protect their country, and be proud of the women and the men in the country because of the way that they carry themselves. Even the name of their country, is uh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. It's like the land of the upright people, I think is what Burkina Faso means when you translate it. If I'm not mistaken, the land of the upright people. So they repeat that constantly because that is something that they are programming subconsciously their people repetitiously. For them to have a culture where that is what comes to mind when they think about their people. When you think about Burkina Bay, you think about people who love the direction that their country is going, and they're willing to put their lives on the line for the leader, over their particular land. And we don't have that here. Our people, uh they they don't have, really, they don't have pride in who they are. They don't have, their identity was taken from them, so they come up with all these constantly new identities, and they have all this self-hatred, to the point to where they hate themselves so much that they hate their gender. They hate that they were born, male or female, so they try to be the other gender. It's so much self-hatred, and there's no laws that are in place to even be able to correct that issue. While I study countries where they do have laws in place in order to correct those issues, those identity issues, and the culture of the people. So until our culture changes, and until we can actually offer incentive for people to go a different direction, then you're gonna have, let's just being honest, um, FBA is a movement where the incentive is reparations. That was the original incentive. And the people, they gravitated towards it because it felt like it was something they could have pride in. Where a person saying that they're FBA, they could say that we have a very distinct lineage, and we are a distinct ethnicity, and this is something that we can finally have pride in. And it was all predicated on the notion of reparations, which is something that the Moors were very known for when I first became conscious. They were pushing that line. I was pushing that line. I'm still pushing that line. And but they had a spokesperson, a popular person in social media, that was able to present it to his audience, and it's spread. It's all over the internet, with our people. And so the issue that came with that is that self-hatred is perpetuated through that, and xenophobia is perpetuated through that particular group, to where it has to be anti-African, anti-Caribbean, anti anything that's outside of America. So you had a major con that came with the proposal of that particular ideal. So, but what it did prove to me is that our people will galvanize in droves behind an incentive. All they needed was just the notion of reparations in order to galvanize all these people under that particular ideal. You know, same thing with ADOS. It's predicated on reparations, and as far as the people that saying they're Aboriginals, that's also something that was presented by the Moors. I was doing paperwork 15 years ago, identifying myself as indigenous and Aboriginal, and from Central West African bloodline, and so on and so forth. As a Moor. So we presented these things, but people they took it and run with it, and they degraded it. The Aboriginal movement is predicated on slavery never happened, and everything comes from America, and America is the originator of everything. Language, everything that you could possibly think of, it all comes from America. That's their ideology. So they took, what we put out there as Moors, and they totally watered it down, stepped on it, and turned it, into the garbage that it is today. And so my thing is that, the Moors got to take responsibility, and they got to hold that L. We got to hold that L, because we had the ideals, but we didn't push it to a level to make it as popular as the other, people were able to make it. So it's our responsibility to clean up our mess, because
Right.
we're the ones that created it. So that's it. We just have to take accountability for that. And those who are not, Moors, and don't want to be considered Moors, it's fine, just work in conjunction with us, because we all the same people. Moor is just another ethnic identity, it's just another ethnicity, but we're all under the global African race. If you don't like African, then Al-Kebalon race. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever name you want to utilize, we're the same people.
Facts.
So we got to move on that.
Right. We are trying to clean up what we messed up. Because Pebbles, and the question goes to you. Older generation trying to tell the youth not to be like them. And we saw that in the 70s in the Mac, when the young dude told Goldie, I want to be just like you. And he told him, no, I don't ever want to hear you say that. You don't want to be like me. You want to be better than me. We hear that all the time. In this, we getting to 2026, and the cycle keeps continuing. So everybody generation tried to clean up what they messed up, and now it's on this next generation. How do we make the message stick?
Provide them a scenario,
Like,
because a lot of people have been putting in the work, and what we have to do is just continue to talk to them. I talk to the young folks all the time. I mean, and they listen. They listen. I mean, what I mean by that, they're just not hearing me. They listen. So all you could do is provide them with the information, the knowledge, and it's left up to them.
you provide them with love.
That's it. I mean, I take up the time with them.
Right. And see, I
It's
don't
left
have.
up to them. Just like, it's almost like you can have 3, 4 kids in the household. Everybody grow up, they have the same rules, same parent, but then people go out and do different things.
Well, that's mom. Mom gonna talk to them with love. I'm gonna grab them by. I'm gonna snatch their ass up. Look, who you want to talk
Sometimes you
to?
have to do that. A mother has to do that sometime.
Yeah, who you want to talk to? And if I and this is the thing. This is the thing. I'm glad it popped up because I want to say this earlier, right? Oh man, they tried to demean the black man and strip the masculinity away, and some black men in they beta or non-masculine role or whatnot. So when I go in these places, right, and they try to communicate with me like I'm less than, right? It's like, who you talking to? Now when your
Uh-oh.
black voice come out and you ready to
Talking
grab
to
them, now they want to get on the phone, call the police, right? But you not finna disrespect me, if you know what I mean. We
Right.
we men, who you talking to, right? Oh my God. And it's another thing too. Women and other races. You
Oh,
know that Indian woman ain't talking to her husband like that. He probably climb all up her head. That African woman ain't talking to that African man like that, right? So
And
I go
neither should
into a place
and neither should we.
and not but I'm not gonna
Not
go
in
in places let
public,
no
at least.
Indian woman talk to me no or Hispanic or whatever talk to me no any kind of way. You know, or no nobody. Right? So now all of a sudden we the angry black man. You know, no, you gonna look because they've been taught not to respect us. But we gotta demand our respect where we gotta demand it. You know, it's not happening. You know, you got the wrong one. I don't know, and that goes to say, I guess, see, that's a separation because we all not the same. Just because you treat that one that way, don't mean you're gonna treat me that way. I don't know. You know what I mean? So you gotta because they try to paint us out with one brush. You gotta respect us enough to study who you dealing with by the way we carry and conduct ourselves. Don't put me in the same boat as the ones you try to dismiss or treat, you know, with a negative tone, you know, because it's problems. You know what I mean? And that's who we are. We what you say we known in history for the with the scimitar. They getting ready to bring it back out, and we tried, but no. And the sad part about it is when they come out, it's not just when they come out, the enemy won't be just one color, because you got black devils too. So you getting all the devils,
Mhm.
black, white, whoever, because you ain't finna look. As long as there been days, the black man existed, black woman existed. We came with the planet. We older than days. We older than time. Motion. We damn near older than motion. So how we sitting around here getting kicked around? It's not happening. That's why we do these shows because in 2026 we going international, right? Because we're international people. We're just catching people up to speed in 2025 as time saying, hey, get it together.
right.
Because as time progresses, you gonna miss the grace, the mercy, because we understand what happened to you. We talked about what they did to you. We even showed you how they pitted one against each other, meaning we taking away our excuses. So now when 2026 rolled around, we don't have time to go back and baby you now. You know what I mean? We moving. You know, it like they say, uh, they talked all that noise, right? But now when the fight jumped off, then they was like, wait a minute, what's getting in and they telling them, look, get out the way or commence the fight. I don't
Right.
got time to hear what's your distraction because you're gonna be a distraction. And we trying to put knowledge and information so you don't become behind and become a distraction of what's coming because they not waiting on you. They don't care if you learn their education system. They don't care if you get a degree. They don't care if you're taking up a trade. They not even trying to find a place to house you if you're homeless. They don't give a damn, right? And now it's getting to a point to where time is moving so fast and things are not as expansive as it was to where even black people don't have time to deal with it, right? Because they trying to maintain a livelihood. But since we are about unity and we're caring people, you do say, hey, you got to give a warning. You got to shoot a gun off in the air. Bam! You shoot the gun off in the air as a warning to say, hey, get it together. But if you come closer, it's going to be pointed at you next. But get it together. You know what I mean? It's getting ridiculous. And you're seeing all this unfolding, right?
I
You
think in
see,
26, I think in 26, we have to really define what our responsibilities are as a culture. What are our responsibilities? I think that's the stepping stone to helping the situation and then coming up with solution. But we have to define what is our responsibilities as a people because everybody have different mindsets on what they feel should be their I'm responsible for. But when we take responsible for self, I think that's gonna help us clean up our image overall because we're gonna demand our respect. It's one thing of taking it from someone or just enforcing it on someone. But once we define, I think that in 26, I think our conversations can grow into solution based because we're saying this is what we're responsible for.
well, if I'm responsible for myself and my family, and I take that approach, and I see it, and I see another family and they without, and I'm saying, damn man, I got 6 cans of beans. Do I give them one,
Yeah.
or do I keep it to my family so they can eat?
It's like we're doing what's right. We know what's right. It's within us all. The right thing to do lead equals the right things to be. So it's like anything that's gonna
Now,
go the
if I
opposite of
say, hey
right
man,
is wrong.
but if I say, hey man, they giving out free cans, and you like, I ain't gonna, you waiting and waiting, all the cans gone. Hey, let me get one of yours. God
That's what I
damn.
say. The responsibility. You're responsible for doing certain things, but once we can agree collectively on that, we will help each other. That it's okay to help each other. It's not looked on or looked down on to do those types of things. Everybody have a different mindset, but we all have to agree that hey, if anything, we're gonna look out for each other.
Like, that's
Okay.
one of the things that's very important. We have to get out of the of being so self-centered, and that's one of the big problems that we have now. We have been so engaged with, oh, I have to get mine. I have to get mine. I'm not worried about anybody else till until it has been to our detriment. Because it might come a time, and sooner than we think, where
Mhm.
families will have to live together again.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm not dealing with nobody. I'm not dealing with nobody that having broke their Willie Lynch chip, don't have some degree of consciousness,
Oh, absolutely. I can
that
agree with.
don't know how to respect or love not me but themselves.
I agree.
Because if I don't want to have one eye open, and I'm not. I can't. I'm
Right,
through. I
right.
can't. If you ain't broke your Willie Lynch and you don't have no self respect for yourself and trying to get some knowledge of self or some form of consciousness, I'm just sticking with like mine. You gonna you gonna become a foreigner to me.
Right, right.
Oh, no, it won't be easy to dance to deal with a I dance for master.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
That can be very frustrating.
yeah.
All right, that's what it
Hey,
is.
hey, it's one more thing, Blake.
Yes, sir.
Is I just want to add something that I would say I really started to heavily subscribe to a lot of channels from African channels to even Nafakari Dessalines. That's a brother from Haiti that lives in New York. His channel, he does a lot of videos about what's going on with us internationally. When I started to learn, and very quickly, because we're already on YouTube. When I started to study the politics of what's going on in all these different countries and the laws, like it just gave me um, so many ideas, and I started sending the videos to my son because just like anything else, they say that a man that knows one book knows none. So here we have a very block to block kind of mentality, very tribalistic, very, I can't see outside of my neighborhood and my city and my state kind of mentality. And, that hinders us a lot when it comes to our culture and our perspective. You know, uh, while we look and we criticize the US for, the way that they move, but One thing about the U.S. is that they move long term and from an international perspective. So they're always, looking to, either intercede or try to make deals internationally. So they don't move and they don't think domestically. That's really a peasant way of thinking.
Right.
And so uh, we could gain so much from studying what's going on in the world, and it really, especially Africa. I'm looking for some good Caribbean channels to find out what kind of politics, but they're a little bit closer to some of the politics on this side because the U.S. owns some of those islands, like Puerto Rico
No.
and one of those Samoan islands, and but still, you when you if we could start, like they say, eat the meat and spit out the bones when it comes to the politics, the geopolitics worldwide, then like Rwanda, for example, they have, if not the whole country, they have uh, areas where they have the people coming clean at certain days of the week. So everybody is mandated to come out into the streets and to clean together at specific times. So they are known as one of the cleanest countries in Africa and probably in the world. Uh, and what it did for the people is that it gave them a sense of togetherness. It gave them, pride in their country, pride in their area. I mean, it's done so much for their mentality and their perspective when it comes to their people and where they live. And in this neighborhood, I live on the north side. Y'all know I live in Acres Home. It's trash everywhere, just like every other Black and Latino, or most of the Black and Latino neighborhoods in the city it's trash everywhere. It's like heavy trash don't care about coming to pick nothing up. And we could actually, culturally, while we have the certain tradition, I was about to say something that we talked about Black. I ain't gonna say it, but while we have these certain things that we follow as a people, ritualistically, throughout the year or on certain days of the year, we need to make this a ritual with our people where we could do this for ourselves. We, instead of being so focused on boycotting, which that don't change anything. We still go to those same stores after we boycott. What if we mandated our people, or made it popular amongst our people, to have a day, at least one day out of the month, where we all come out into the streets and we clean things up ourselves, where we don't have to wait
Mm.
on any foreign entity to, make that a staple for our people. We could do that within our own neighborhoods. And with us being as popular as we are, if we actually did it, it would go viral. If we
I,
did that in this city, it'll do millions and millions of views if we were able to do that in just a
I,
few of our neighborhoods,
oh,
you know?
I mean, you know what? I'm down
Yeah.
when we do it. I am down. I just got a question. Were the Moors in Rome?
What a Moors
Uh,
what?
in Rome, ancient Rome.
You said what a Moor in Rome?
Yes,
That's a good question. I
I got
I don't
evidence
want I
from Saint Maurice,
It was everywhere, man.
and the Moors was in
Everywhere.
Eurasia.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
They was in the
facts.
Everywhere.
Caribbean.
Yeah.
They was in the Americas, Philippines.
Right.
So,
Under different sometimes under different names.
living there.
So for Greece,
Mexico,
for the ancient Greeks, you'll find Etruscan.
right?
And then, you'll find Phoenician, you'll find the Phoenicians, and you know, I think there was I don't want to say the names wrong. That's why I paused, because I was trying to think of, all the ancient names that they had in Europe and around the Mediterranean, But when you say Moors, that's an ethnic group that has a more specific kind of culture. So,
Correct.
now you'll hear Tuareg and Amazigh and the old name Berber, and the Mari people of
Right.
Mauritania, so it's still
So,
just a group
but
with inside of a larger race of people.
But the point I'm making is even Spain, Portugal. The point I'm making is everywhere they went, they dropped an aspect of knowledge and a form of government or governorship in those different regions, right? So when we say we going international, we just going back picking up pieces that we dropped off or we left, adding to what we already have, which makes it stronger. Because it's more on this, because the whole planet belongs to us. You right, we concentrating on one part, but we had to because the brains is over here in America. When they was setting up over here in America, and they was taking people from Cuba, from the Caribbean, from Africa. They wasn't just they were taking brains, the scientists, the mathematicians. That's how we were able to build what we built over here. That's how the White House got built. That's how Benjamin Banneker was doing almanacs and showing them what season to plant. Plant your seeds, and every 7 years you move it to a fresh crop so you don't deplete the minerals. He breaking it. That's Moorish knowledge. But we had some over here. We got to go over to Mexico and get some of the knowledge we built. We got to go, over to Eurasia to grab that knowledge. We got to go to Africa and grab and put it all together because it's almost like uh, uh, Osiris.
Yeah.
Cut into, some say 13, some say 14 pieces. We going back gathering. It's the same thing as Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. We so many pieces, all the king, horse, the key man. Nobody can put us back together again. Somebody, and that's where the Mason get the master grip. But somebody got the knowledge because they know we valuable whole or unity they call it. We valuable whole, but we got to go back and grab them pieces and make it whole. And it's their job. It's like a game. It's their chess, and it's their job to keep us from becoming whole, and it's our job to try to become whole. And that's that balance until somebody comes with a higher mathematics or a higher science that they can't touch that put us back together again, and they're gonna be one and they wondering, man, how'd y'all do it? So yeah, that's we international in 2026 because we are international people. Yeah, it's on, fam.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
once again, any topics for the next show, Dave?
I
Because
think
in
we can.
2026 we going Pan African, we going international.
I think that's a good way to open up talking about that because we're not really having conversations about it. I mean, we're still gonna bring our issues into it, but I think moving forward in the future, that is a good topic because it's kind of like uncharted territory. It's a lot of things that we don't know. And bringing that might open up some new solutions to different things. We're understanding things from a different perspective, different countries, different cultures and then seeing what we have in common with it. So
Man,
moving forward in the future, I'm with that.
and can you imagine? Okay, say the knowledge pebbles got the knowledge women got in other countries, right? And they teach that knowledge to women that's pregnant because the women are teaching the babies in the womb, and that baby sucking up that knowledge. Man, you know what? Where to be born when it hit that planet, bro?
Mm.
They know, but they know that too, though. That's why they keep the. But we finding ways to break that. But they know that's powerful. That putting classical music to the womb, the stomach, and getting that mathematics out of that rhythm. I mean, trust me, y'all, it's coming. We gonna make it happen. We not through yet. We just getting started. Trust me. 2026 gonna be powerful, which is the year one. 2 and 2 is 4 plus that 6 is 10 and 1 plus 0 is 1. The year one started. We already started off with a bang. It ain't even here yet. It's on World Pick Radio. We out.
Yo, yo.